Good morning. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and rocking with us for another edition of the Morning Breeze, man. Always rocking with you guys, as always, man. Outside of me, I got my guy, Mr. Media himself, Jordan JC, in the building. We're still here. We have all survived. But now it's time to ask the tough question. Oh, boy. Is it time for the Chicago Bears, in some form or fashion, to bench Tyrique Stevenson because of his antics on Sunday? Doesn't mean it has to be forever, but at least maybe for this upcoming game. Because, wow, watching that playback is still very, very shocking. And then I also want to talk about the connection that we've seen with Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze and how it seems to work every time we decide to target Rome. But we don't seem to do it enough. Do we need to target Rome Odunze more throughout the game? And then finally, listen, it doesn't get any better than talking about fixing the O-line again. Ladies and gentlemen, the date is 10/29/2024. It's 6:33 in the goddamn morning. And somewhere in the world, Caleb Williams just got sacked again.
Oh, boy.
Let go! Vibes. Big vibes. Made y'all with a freestyle on that mug one day. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, showing love to another edition of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily Morning Breeze Edition. It's your boy Pat the Designer, joined by Mr. Media himself, Jordan JC.
What's going on?
Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love as always. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. I need y'all to go ahead and do me a favor. Go ahead and
come on. Push the button. Come on. Push the button. Come on, push the button.
Yeah, come on, push the button.
You heard what she said.
Y'all heard what Sue Young said. Push the goddamn button, man. This is the first morning I woke up where it stung a little less.
Yeah. Trying to lick my wounds.
Took a couple days. Excuse me. It took a couple days. It still hurts. Still. Hey, I had to go make the thumbnail for this picture, and I had to pull up the picture of him just pointing.
Yeah. God.
That's all you can do, dog. It's so tough. It's so tough.
I knew this whole week would be bad. This whole week is just a week of recovery.
It's not gonna be a fun one, but we're gonna get through it as we always do. We're gonna find by the end of this week some positive that we feel like we can hold on to until they crush our souls again. But let's start it off here because we had the conversation yesterday about the Chicago Bears failures and how they're holding back Caleb Williams, and you put yourself in a position to go out there and win this game. And if not for one boneheaded play at the end of the game where Tyrique Stevenson runs over, tries to tip the football instead of just boxing out his man Noah Brown, who ends up catching the touchdown for Washington in the end zone, you end up sitting here talking about an unfathomable loss all week, one that has ripped the hearts out of most Chicago fans this season. And realistically speaking, the apology felt a little hollow yesterday. The apology on Twitter felt very hollow, and I just don't care. At the end of the day, I don't care if you're sorry or not. Do your job. And the big thing for me was with everything around, Matt Eberflus and his accountability levels with things was they're not high enough in situations like this. We've seen this before, right? I've seen the hits principle get disrespected how many times, and usually guys aren't sitting here that worried about the hits principle when they're disrespecting it. They don't really go back and sit there and we think we're going to get benched because of it. I remember Chase Claypool. Heck, I mean, Nate Davis is the greatest example. He's still on this team. So my question is, do you have to set a standard finally on your hits principle if you're Matt Eberflus? And do you have to bench Tyrique Stevenson? Now, again, benching somebody does not mean they don't play in the game at all. We've seen these kind of benchings before where it's like, you're not the starting DB. You don't run out there. We're going with somebody else over you. Doesn't mean that you don't have an impact on the game or you don't get back in the game. And actually, weirdly enough, it actually works. I've seen this light a fire under multiple players where like those will be the better games that they have on the season because they're like, all right, I got to make an impact for the fact that I'm locked up on the bench right now. So when I'm out there, I have to make more of an impact. Do you feel like you need to see some kind of punishment that is done publicly for Tyrique Stevenson for his public display of idiocy? Or do you feel like, it is what it is. The apology is what it is. And let's just move forward from it.
Absolutely not. I mean, I feel like it was already nonchalant in a sense where I think it was a slap on the wrist. Yes, a lot of people saw what was happening nationally. Tyrique Stevenson was the focal point of a lot of people's, ire and just getting blasted on social media. But here's the thing. I felt that apology was hollow too. I felt the apology didn't cover your sins in a sense because you've been doing this for a number of times. You did this in your rookie season. There are times where you're jawing off too much and you're causing harm to your team. You're strapping on your seatbelt, but you're still causing crashes because you got penalties against you, poking fingers in helmets and doing all type of stupid stuff to not allow your team to be in a position to succeed. And so I think that it wouldn't be a bad thing to maybe keep him out the first half. Let's just say, put somebody like a Terrell Smith in there, help him learn, kind of give him a lesson and say, hey, you're going out there in the second half and allow him to see the game from the sideline and see how it's done. A lesser talent like Terrell Smith goes out there, does his job, and then goes on to the next play. I haven't seen Terrell Smith do those things where he stops somebody on defense and then continues to jaw at him as if he's having an entirely good game. I need Tyrique Stevenson to understand, the moment, like you said, have that awareness. Because my thing is your awareness is not good. You're getting torched, and you're talking to the crowd. You're talking to top receivers as if you're that guy. You need to kind of take accountability, and I feel like he hasn't taken full accountability. I don't like the fact that Matt Eberflus, even though he came and he spent time in front of the team, and he apologized and said what he had to say. Kevin Byard even mentioned, we move forward. He did what he needed to do. No point in beating a dead horse in a sense, or kind of letting him kind of lick his wounds in a sense. No, I need him to feel this. I really need him to feel this because I feel like Tyrique is a guy who'll say all the right things, but then get right back to doing what he does. And so, yes, maybe take him out for a half or a quarter or whatever the case may be. You don't obviously take him out for the whole game. He's still needed. You don't play yourself because especially if the game isn't going your way, you want to make sure that you got your best players out there. He's still one of your better quarterbacks outside of Jalen Johnson. So we still need to be smart about how we go about benching him. But yes, I would start out by putting him off the field.
It's so interesting to me because it's the one position where you actually could get away with benching him and be fine. Right now, I'm not saying that Josh Blackwell or like Kyler Gordon, if he comes back in there, is as good as Tyrique Stevenson. I do think that it would put you at a little bit of a disadvantage, and especially going up against MHJ this week, you may need him out there. But I do think that there's a part of me that does agree you need to, because you have the depth on this team, you need to let him realize that it is a privilege for you to be out there and you need to take better care of it. But there's also the other part of it where you're not in a great spot where you can just go out there and be like, yeah, he doesn't have to play. So I do like if you were to bench him, maybe do it for a half. But at the end of the day, I think here's the thing. You have so many guys, and dog, I've never seen this before in my life. And chat, y'all let me know if you have. I've never seen so many guys be so comfortable speaking out against the head coach. I've never seen so many guys be so comfortable saying we don't believe that this decision that our coach made was the right decision. Like, this is so new to me. And I think that not to say that it's the end of the world. It's a bad thing. It's a bad culture. I don't think that the Bears have a bad culture in their locker room. I'm in there, with them, and they're always having fun. They're always laughing to the point where, they'd be like, all right, yeah, I'll get out so we can keep having fun, right? But this is it just feels like such a different situation, and it feels like you've seen guys cross the line too many times under Matt Eberflus. Not to say that everyone's crossing the line. I think most guys do respect Flus. I think most guys do fall in line, and they, there's not guys going rogue out here on the field every single week. Yeah. But the fact that you have guys that are willing to do things like this on a yearly basis with Matt Eberflus, I think is very telling of how they respect that hits principle.
No, I agree with you. I was laughing at JC Franklin's point too.
JC Franklin with the super chat say, excellent point, JC. Let's be honest. We didn't deserve that game. Florida Evans is just taking the blame right now. That's kind of look like Florida Evans, actually.
I ain't gonna lie. I didn't see it until he said it.
Damn. He does kind of look like Florida Evans.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Oh,
that's an elite joke, JC. No,
that's
there
funny.
has to be accountability. I've said it before. This team, we as fans, as a city, we expect the standard to change. The culture is changing. They said this from the very beginning. When you brought Kevin Warren in, there's a certain standard that needs to be upheld. And I feel like, when you go about your business, even when it comes to disciplining your players, and also even when it comes to also taking accountability yourself, Matt Eberflus, like I feel like that we need to expect more from them. When you say that, the players and the execution needs to be better, well, also, group yourself in there. I need to be better when it comes to how I control my players and how they act and carry themselves on the field. We need to act like a professional football team at all times. That's a reflection on the coach. Attitude reflect leadership, coach. One of my favorite lines from Remember the Titans.
Leadership reflect leadership.
Coach, captain, right? Captain. It's like you need to make sure that your players are focused, they're disciplined, and that principle, like you swap it around, it spells another word too. That a lot of people are saying this morning, and I can't say, but that principle goes. It sounds like crap in a sense, So you have to make sure that your players, your best players, by the way, who should be leading by example for this team, are doing their job and doing their job to the best of their ability. And Tyrique Stevenson is one of those guys. And so when he sets a horrible standard, when he's acting a fool out there and not focusing on the play, and he's focusing on the crowd more so. No, yes, he needs to feel that. I understand he went out and did all the right things, and I this whole apology thing, I don't know if anybody ever buys into the apologies that players and athletes have ever done. Like, it's like a PR thing where it's like, oh, let's get this under control. Let's let the people hear what they want to hear, and then let's move forward. I've never bought into the apology thing or the apology letter. Like, I feel like it's just all fake. But my thing is, show that you mean business by making sure he's not on that field to start. That's the only way I can see. Obviously us being satisfied as fans with his discipline. Other than that, you're not doing your job, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? I think the conversation is more, are you going to set the standard and deal with the fact that you have a loss? And we've seen coaches do that. We've seen coaches say, this is my standard. If you don't want to abide by it, you can sit your butt on the sidelines. Didn't the Packers just do that like 2 weeks ago with Romeo Dobbs? Like, we've seen coaches do that.
Good coaches.
Put the player back out there, and they go out there and play well, and it's not the end of the world. And I think that the thing with Flus is, right, like, you've let this happen for so long in my mind. I mean, we've talked about the hits principle being disrespected almost every single season of him being here, outside of the first season where they had no talent on the team. By the way, over 100 and a check. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do, man. Appreciate y'all for rocking with us this morning. We've talked about his hits principle being disrespected almost every single season because there's always somebody that does. And guess what? All they got to do is apologize to the team, hug it out, kumbaya, walk back inside, and we're all good. Here we go. We're back in, everybody. And then you sit there and watch the player next week. You be like, this is the same crap we just saw last week. Now, I don't think that's the case with Tyrique Stevenson. I'm not as done with the antics as everybody else is. You know what I mean? Like, I like a DB that talks trash. I like a DB that gets under people's skin. I like a DB that, especially because you're not giving up touchdowns. I mean, what touchdowns on the year for Tyrique Stevenson is what, 2?
Yeah, he gave up one to Nico, and then I believe there was I think there was another one on him. Yeah,
I think the first week I think he gave up touchdown, but you're not giving up touchdowns.
Yeah,
you have all the yards in the world if you ain't giving up touchdowns. And I'm also not sitting here pretending the defense ain't who this defense is. They're a bend but don't break defense. They're not you're never going to gain another yard defense.
I don't want them to gain another yard.
Yeah, another Remember the Titans quote. They're not that kind of defense.
Yeah.
They weren't that kind of defense going into this game. I didn't expect them to be that kind of defense coming into this game. I expected them to be exactly who they were. You were going to get down the field. You were going to be in the red zone. You were going to kick field goals. Or you were going to get knocked out of the red zone. Like that's the kind of defense they've been all season. It's the kind of defense they were last season to finish out the year, and it's kind of what I expect. Unless you're playing against those bad teams. So, like, I'm not losing my mind at the Tyrique Stevenson. Oh, Terry McLaurin had 125 yards for him. Yes, and no touchdowns. Like, that's what matters. The points matters.
You know what? I'm fine with the fact that Tyrique Stevenson does jaw every now and then. I just need you to have a better track record. I guess the inconsistency is what gets to me. Like, Jalen Johnson can talk trash all day too, but he's backed it up with elite play. I haven't seen Tyrique Stevenson build up that much of a resume where his elite play has kind of stretched out from game to game to game. There are times where we're talking about, man, Tyrique Stevenson just got burned on that play. And yes, he hasn't given up touchdowns. Maybe that's just situational. It just happens to be that way where he's not been able, he hasn't given it up, but
he's also getting targeted every single
I've seen him get targeted a lot. Yeah, obviously, but there's a reason for that because the best guy is on the other side shutting it down. You're not passing it to Jalen Johnson. And when you do, you saw the ball got batted down. I believe he was going up against Zach Ertz on one of those plays, those pivotal plays, slapped the ball down. Like you're not targeting Jalen because you know the outcome is not going to be on your side most of the time. But when you're looking at Tyrique, you say, we might be able to get in Tyrique's head every now and then. That's the thing that I don't want. I don't want people to mentally try and play around with Tyrique because it seems as if when you get in Tyrique's head, that's when he's a little bit off his game. And that's where I need Tyrique to kind of clean up his playing style. I don't mind the aggressiveness. I know he likes getting a little, aggressive on the receiver as soon as the ball is hiked. I understand he's a short tackler. He's an aggressive tackler. Those are all good things. But then when it comes back to bite you in the butt is when you're doing too much when it comes to that. You know, you're jawing and then you get a penalty.
Only thing I want Tyrique Stevenson to realize is play recognition. I swear he never knows when a deep shot's coming. Like, it's the only thing I want Tyrique Stevenson to recognize. Outside of that, I don't have a problem with him being the second corner. I think he does a really good job. I think that this is a bad moment, and you need to punish bad moments. Right? It doesn't mean that you need to bring the hammer down. I think it's, like, honestly, if this game ends without the dumb tip and going into the end zone, Terry McLaurin had 125 yards, no touchdowns. They don't score a touchdown the entire day, and we're not talking about Tyrique Stevenson. We're not talking about Tyrique Stevenson getting cooked. We're not talking about what Terry McLaurin was able to do because we go, he didn't let up a touchdown. Your job is to keep people out of the end zone. Yes, would I like him to be Deion Sanders opposite Jalen Johnson? For sure. That'd be phenomenal. He's not that guy.
Nope.
He's the guy that's the bully guy. He's the guy that, oh, you want to catch the ball? I'm going to let you catch the football, but you are going to feel it. You are going to feel every single hit. You're going to feel every single tackle. I'm going to beat you up every time off of the line. The biggest thing I need Tyrique Stevenson to understand is, when you make that push and then all of a sudden they're gone because they're fast wide receivers and you didn't get your hands out quick enough and now they're down the field wide open and you're trying to keep up. Let's recognize when that play is coming. I think that's the only thing for me. Like, do I think that a benching may help, or it at least sets a tone or a respect? Maybe. I think that that's something that could be the case. But also, is there already a lack of respect there that he was willing to do something like this? Is there already a lack of respect there that he's willing to taunt on the sideline while a play is live? Because I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of coaches. I guarantee you nobody's doing that in an Andy Reid system. Somebody would be cut if they did it. Tyrique Stevenson might be cut if he did it in a Bill Belichick system. I've seen, I would dare somebody to do it with Sean McVay, with Matt LaFleur, there are teams that don't accept this. There are teams that are going to look at you and go, oh, really? You go have a seat. We saw, and to this day,
to this day,
I do not understand how you have the gall to sit this young man in the Super Bowl. Who's old boy that made the interception? The DB that made the interception for the Patriots on
you're right.
On the Seahawks.
Yes, yeah. I can't remember his name.
I can't think of his name.
I know Chat will probably help us out with that. Yeah, got it in front of the
Bill Belichick. Butler, I don't know what he did. Malcolm Butler. I don't know what he did, but he was definitely benched the next Super Bowl.
Yep. Yeah. Malcolm Butler was in the doghouse. You have the goal to do that.
You benched a Pro Bowl. Now, I'm not saying go that far. I'm not saying shout out to the chat with Malcolm Butler. I'm not saying go that far. We don't need to be benching.
But it's the idea that you have the confidence to do it. That's what I want to see. I want to have a coach that has the confidence to say, you know what? I don't care what your accolades are. I don't care what your resume says. You need to understand and feel this in the moment. And I feel like because Eberflus is a player's coach, you've seen him be nice and give everybody nicknames. What's going on, Thrasher? Hey, Charger. What's going on, Bruiser, Devastator, Terminator? All right, have a good day. Yeah, that's all well and good. But
you ran out of nicknames, didn't you?
Huh?
You ran out of nicknames, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I was thinking of stuff. I was like, Herder. I was going to go real normal. But it was one of those things where it's like you've seen even behind the scenes. Have you ever seen him go crazy on a person? No, he doesn't have that track record. I haven't seen it.
You know what? I'm not going to say that. I've seen him snap on players. And that's why I always say, it was funny when people were like, he's too nice. He's too, because he didn't snap on players in front of people on the sidelines. But, in practice, I've seen him snap on mugs a lot. I think where it gets tough is if you are an established veteran that is a major integral piece to a team, he usually does not snap on those players.
See? Got to do that.
But that's the conversation we had where, Shane Waldron had to have the players come to him and say, hey, coach us. We can take it. You can yell at us. You can cuss us out and tell us do something again. That's okay. It's a wild statement to say. But
doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And I think this is, again, going back to the fact that we've never seen this as many times. When you have a veteran safety constantly saying, whether it be the play calling or whether it be, owning up to your discipline, talking about Tyrique, the players are starting to have more of a voice, which is what we wanted. I don't mind the players having a voice, but that's also an indication that maybe your coach and maybe the coaches on the team, the leaders of the team, aren't as vocal as they need to be at the right time.
That's a great show. So out here with the dodgeball lineup, Blazer, Laser, Gazer,
Devastator, Destroyer. Hunter. We're like, come on,
Hunter.
man. We got all these goofy nicknames.
I don't know, man. It's a little more cheesy in the NFL than it is in hockey. Everybody in hockey is a nickname, but like in the NFL, it's like everybody has a nickname. That's the move you want to go with. Hey,
My
man,
God.
we do have over 200 in the chat.
Hey.
200.
Ah.
There you go. Hey, man, we're going to keep this thing moving along. Let us know your thoughts. Do you feel like the Chicago Bears need to bench Tyrique Stevenson? Let us know in the comments below. We are going to keep this thing moving right along as we talk about the Rome Odunze connection that he has with Caleb Williams. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back right after this. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching the show. Today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by Aura. Have you ever done a Google search on your own name? You'd be surprised what pops up. Your full name, email address, home address, health records, your relatives. It's all out there. And that's why I've been using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura shows me which data brokers are selling my information and automatically submits opt-out requests just for me. Cleaning up my information not only helps reduce the amount of spam I get, but it protects me from hackers who could use that information to help them access my social media, bank accounts, and other sensitive information. It's really simple to set up. I don't have to download several apps or go to things like antivirus, VPN, password management, parental controls, identity theft, but you can get all of that in one place with Aura. I get everything at one affordable price as well. You may already have one or two of these tools, but not having Aura is like leaving the front door locked while leaving the back door and windows wide open. For you to be able to take advantage of Aura, we got a special deal for you here today. Stop data brokers from exposing your personal information. Go to my sponsor at https:/aura.com/the Windy City. Again, that is aura.com/the Windy City to get a 14-day free trial and see how much of your information is being sold. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love to another edition of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave that 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. We just got done talking about should the Chicago Bears bench Tyrique Stevenson after his costly mistake that leads us to talking about one of the most devastating losses we've had this season. Now I want to get into the Rome Odunze, the offensive side of the conversation, because Rome Odunze is an interesting. He's being used in a very interesting way. He's basically been that third guy on the field more times than not. By the way, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. He's basically been that third guy on the field more times than not. But my thing is, what we've seen him do with his targets when he does get them is impressive.
Mm-hmm.
And my question on the table today, is it time to get Rome Odunze the ball more, whether that's on Caleb Williams, whether that is on Shane Waldron? Is it time for him to become a bigger focal point of this team? And I mean, listen, not to say that the yards were crazy on Sunday, but he was the only person who it felt like consistently could get was getting open and could get his shot called at any point, and he could bring the football in. He was 3 for 6 for 41 yards on the day. But I mean, just open when you watch the All-22 all day, had opportunities, had passes that could have been thrown to him. One of those targets for Rome was absolutely wild. I mean, just thrown completely over his head. Actually, a couple of them were. But when given an opportunity to make a play on the ball, I thought that he did a really good job doing that. We saw he was 2 for 2 in the Jacksonville game, only 2 targets, still able to get 40 yards. He was 5 for 6 in the Carolina game, 40 yards on that. Only got 3 targets in the Rams game, 1 reception there. Indy was the big game there, 112 yards, 6 for 11. and a touchdown on the day. I just feel like Rome Odunze has so much more impact. He's such a mismatch for DBs so often that it's time to look his way a little bit more. 6'3", 220 pounds. That's not an easy player for people to deal with. We know that they're focusing more on DJ Moore, and it's very difficult to get him involved in the game plan, which is irritating my soul. But there's also not to say there's a lack of focus, but you're usually getting the third DB on Rome.
Yeah.
And I think that you gotta focus on him a little bit more moving forward.
I'm all for that, and it looks as if the connection to Rome Odunze is just it's becoming easier. It's like they have that comfortability kind of down packed. Every time you pass it to him. I mean, on the season, he's averaging 14.4 yards per reception. You got to give it to him a little bit more. He's been a good downfield threat. Whenever Caleb does connect downfield, it seems as if he's connecting with Rome Odunze perfectly. Like we saw it in the preseason. We saw whenever Caleb is accurate downfield, it's usually to Rome. Outside of this game, obviously, when he was double teamed, we did see a few that weren't on him. I believe he got thrown behind to start the game as well. So a few of those receptions, it wasn't as if it was on him. It was just not really targeted well. But this is a guy who is again showing every time. Now here's a guy who's showing every time he gets the ball, he's able to get a little yak as well. I mean, the way he moves for his size is it could be special, and it's looking special. I mean, I remember one play where I think it was tight space, looked as if he was going to go down after the catch, and I think he wiggled past one guy, then got past another. Almost got the first down on one play. Like, so you're looking at someone who is getting comfortable. Every time his number is called, his name is called, he's ready. And so, yes, I would love for that connection to kind of heat up a little bit more. It seems as if it's even more comfortable than with DJ, if I'm being honest. Now, I'm not saying that Rome Odunze needs to be your number one, but you need to start looking him at possibly as your number two. And then Keenan Allen being that safety valve, as we always talked about on the third downs. When you need somebody to go to in those emergency moments, that's your Keenan Allen, throw. But Rome Odunze is starting to, in my opinion, make a name for himself to the point where, yes, get him more targets, because the game where you gave him more targets, he came out with a really good game. I believe he had, 6 for 11 targets in the Indianapolis Colts game,
112 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, that's what you want to see. Give him more targets. I think
listen, he's a deep ball threat. And Caleb's deep ball has been not where you want it to be to start the season.
Not
we
what
can't
we
even
thought.
pretend about that. You know what I mean? But he's a deep ball threat to start your year off. You got to get him the football more. He's kind of got that DJ Moore mentality a little bit, where he tries to go through everybody once he catches the ball, but he's also got the breakaway speed. Like, I don't understand how, as far as this offense as a whole, I don't understand how it's so difficult to get our wide receivers involved. I get certain things, right? Like, listen, and the big thing for me is you need to address the offensive line. You can't block. You're not going to make things work. We said that all year. Doesn't matter if you get all these fancy receivers in here. Guess what? If you can't protect Caleb's not going to be able to get the football to him. But the fact that we're starting to use DJ Moore as a running back, and that's not just a this week thing.
Mm-hmm. We've done it a
multiple weeks thing. Like, this is one of the most confusing conundrums I think I've ever seen in football, that you can't get a 3 wide receiver set involved consistently. And especially when you're talking about especially when you're talking about guys like Rome Odunze, who have mismatches more often than not.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the thing for me that is kind of weird about how Shane Waldron is directing things, that I think really is hurting the Bears moving forward, that I think is going to hold the Bears back. And listen, I told y'all coming in, I had my concerns about Shane Waldron. I was skeptical about Shane Waldron. I think he may be one of the reasons why the Bears do end up moving on from this coaching staff, because I don't think you can just keep swapping out offensive coordinators here, because offensive coordinators don't really get better. They usually are the coordinator that they are.
Yeah.
And so, like, very rarely, I never remember that Sean McVay moment where I was like, I don't think he's got it. I never remember that even a Cliff Kingsbury moment where I was like, this guy doesn't get offenses. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't have that moment. I've had that moment with every OC we brought in here.
Yeah.
I literally looked at Shane Walsh, and not to say things aren't open, not to say things aren't developing, and an offensive line helps that woefully, and we'll talk about that as well because I think there may need to be an addressing of that. But you can't find ways to get DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Rome Odunze involved in this offense, and your quarterback can't seem to hit screen passes on a consistent basis. That's a problem. That's a real problem.
It is a problem, and you mentioned it. We've got enough talent on this side of the ball where that shouldn't be an issue. I mean, that was the whole point of us bringing in guys outside of DJ Moore, is because you saw success happen when it was just DJ Moore. So we thought, hey, okay, you add a premier receiver in Keenan Allen, even though he's getting a little older in age, he's still a guy that gave you, over 1,200 yards in the games that he played. He's still a premier route runner. Like, you thought you were really getting some elite talent, and you are. But it's a matter of how you use it. Again, right? I talked about personnel throughout the beginning of this season and putting them in the positions to succeed. Well, in this past game, like you mentioned, in the beginning of the game, there were people that were open. It's just that Caleb was off. But, I mean, overall, yes, you need to get these guys more involved. It's unacceptable to have these receivers say that they're so talented, but then they only get 2 targets or 3 targets. DJ Moore should not be getting 3 targets in a game. That's utterly unacceptable. He should be getting 3 targets in the first drive, if we're being honest,
Yeah.
So there needs to be an attention to that as well. Like, you get the pass game, which is why I said I didn't have a problem with Caleb, when he threw a lot of passes. I don't have an issue with him throwing a lot. If we're scheming up these receivers to get open and creating space away from the DBs. But it's a matter of, okay, now you just got to be on point with getting it there. You got to be accurate. You have to make sure that you're throwing these receivers open. And I think Rome Odunze is a guy who can do a little bit of everything, which is why you drafted him 9th. You used your pick, and there's a lot of different ways that we've been arguing. You could have went. You could have went with an offensive lineman. You could have went with a Jared Verse who is killing. There's a lot of different directions you went. So you need to make sure you're utilizing that pick now, and Rome Odunze needs to be more of a spotlight.
Yeah, it's the fact that it's a top 10 talent. And we're having the we're having the conversation once again on how do you utilize a top 10 talent? How do you get a top 10 talent involved? And listen, guys, I may be the only one here that feels this way. Screen passes aren't bad. Caleb's got to hit them.
Yeah.
Screen passes work. Now, do I like the DJ Moore on the one screen pass? No. And I think that was probably an RPO call that Caleb Williams decided to throw that football and try, because the DB was playing so far off that he thought he could fit that in there and DJ would be able to get the yard on that. DB broke downhill really fast. It was a really good play by him, and he was all over it completely, and you don't end up getting the yard there. But I'm not sitting here losing my mind at screen passes. You know what I'm losing my mind at? The fact that Keenan Allen's standing wide open on one and he has to look up and go, what the fuck? Because you just sailed it 15 feet over his head.
Yeah.
Like, Sunday was a collective, everybody needs to figure out how to get their heads out of their you-know-whats.
Yeah.
And we gotta get this together. And in the fourth quarter, you kind of did do that. In the fourth quarter, you started to figure some things out. You started to move things in the right direction. Then all of a sudden, right, you're up with an opportunity to win this game called winning ugly. But like, it's tough on an offensive coordinator, and we're very tough on offensive coordinators here in the city. It's tough on an offensive coordinator when your line is failing as consistently as it is. When everything is working, your quarterback is throwing the football over people's heads, or when the other two are working, you're calling a play that it just looks like absolute dog crap, which is handing the football off to your backup center. And I'm watching this popped up on my screen just now. Dan Orlovsky is sitting here talking about how the play call is fine.
Here we go.
But you got to make a better handoff. Yeah, no.
Here we go.
Yeah, no.
Don't you dare say that was a fine play
No,
call. It was a
there's no way.
horrible play call.
There's no way, dog.
Let's not start with that crap.
I don't got it,
Too
bro.
early in the
I don't
morning,
got
Dan. Too early in the morning, Dan.
it. Like, that's not a bad play call. I'm here for that. How? That's what I say. You hand it off to the guy that's never carried a football in his life. Let's keep this thing moving along, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, showing love. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Now that we're talking about backup offensive linemen, I want to have the conversation on something that we talked about last week. Ryan Poles is in an interesting situation because you've passed on multiple offensive linemen that all look like they're doing a pretty good job. Russell, I watched the Steelers last night with their rookie center playing, and he looks pretty good. I've watched so many different offensive linemen that the Bears have had an opportunity to go out there and get. Look at least decent to above average. And we don't have that here in Chicago right now. And so my question for the chat, hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. My question for you, Jordan JC, do the Bears need to go all in and do the best that they can to address this offensive line? And whatever all in is, all in can be fourth. All in can be just try and address this offensive line in some way to help out Caleb Williams.
I think that's the best way to put it is do your best at trying to address it as early as possible. We know that Ryan Poles hasn't hit on getting those guys here. You know, I was just telling you the other day that when I looked up the recent grades on centers, Connor Williams is up there. You know, you had him. You had a guy that you could have plugged in at center, and we wouldn't be talking about him face down back up. You know, Connor Williams is actually a talented center. You missed on that, and so do as much possible. And I feel that Ryan Poles has that aggression. Obviously, I think that Ryan Poles will do what he needs to do to try and address it as much as possible by the trade deadline. We talked about a name like Wyatt Teller. You know, that would be a huge upgraded guard. I'm all for that because that seems to be the only or biggest name out there that's up for trade. And if you need to, you know, package whatever to get him, do what you got to do to get him. Outside of that, yes, like this is something that's going to be an issue until next year's draft. You know, I see the chat bringing up some names. Mike Onwenu is a good name as well. You know, yes. So make it happen. Absolutely, Steve. Just took the words out of my mouth, Steve. Make it happen. Do your job. Make it happen. Address it as much as possible because, again, it doesn't matter how much talent you have on this offensive side of the ball. If you can't get the ball to your players and you're not confident enough and you're throwing it behind them and we're seeing uncharacteristic things and traits from Caleb not being accurate, there's a reason for that. It's because he's starting to not feel comfortable in the pocket. You know, when you replace a guy like Braxton and you go from him to Karan, and I know Joel was saying the other day, well, he looked good overall. Okay, well, what I saw, he didn't look good enough to me. Didn't look good enough. Yeah. I don't need okay or mediocre. We've seen that too much on this line. We got mediocre offensive linemen all over the place. I need, again, the standard to be heightened. I need the standard to rise. And so it starts with trying to get a couple of these guys during the trade, before the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think my thing is like listen, I watched the All-22 on Karan Amagaji, and it's not to say that he can't improve. I mean, it was his first time out there. It was his first opportunity on the field in consistent fashion. It was his first opportunity to go out there and really get some good run. But that's the problem. It took 8 weeks for you to finally put a young man out there, and injury, for you to finally put a young man out there where injury had happened before, who was a 3rd-round pick. You drafted a 3rd-round pick project. 3rd-round picks aren't projects. 3rd-round picks are supposed to be role players. 3rd-round picks, I'm not saying they're supposed to be amazing. I didn't expect them to be amazing. But you are supposed to be able to be a role player. And I'm going to be real with you. The thing that stood out to me was if you've been out 8 weeks, at least you should know the calls. It looked like at times he didn't know the calls. It looked like at times he was just getting blown past on that left side. I guess when they actually tried to bull rush him, he was able to stand his own a little bit more, which was impressive. I thought that, as a left tackle, you got to have that left-hand jab out there. I thought that left-hand jab was just kind of like it was a meh. It wasn't. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot happening. It's your first opportunity in action. I'm not writing the story on Karan Amagaji and saying that's a done deal. I'm not writing the story on Karan Amagaji and saying it's over for him in his career. What does scare me, though, is I look at a young man all the time in the locker room and I go, looks like Braxton Jones to me. Looks like Braxton Jones without lifting weights. And I'm talking about the build, the physique of this young man. You want left tackles that are big dudes. You want left tackles that are big and can move fast. And I just don't see that from Karan. I see I guess not an undersized. I see a left tackle with a lot more upper body than lower body.
I told you. You think I'm joking? They need to go out for steak. I'm not playing around when I say that. Mr. Meaty, go on the Mr. Meaty plan and start getting your anchor better. Like, you need to anchor better. That's the problem with our left tackles is they don't have the legs to anchor. Yeah. And so, you see the ability. You see certain things. I even liked it. I'll give him some grace. I even liked when Karan Amagaji, stood up for his quarterback. I saw a few times.
I like that. I like that. Run out there. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, talk a little trash. I don't mind that part. You got a little Tevin Jenkins in you when you got that. But my thing is, yes, don't just get blown around like blown past by like you're some matador, like Olay, No, don't do that. And I understand it's your first game or you're probably getting adjusted to the speed. Maybe those things do kind of balance themselves out, level themselves out. The more experience he has out there, the more he sees the speed of the game kind of slow down. I get that. But again, like you mentioned, that's a third round talent. That's not we didn't draft him in the 5th or 6th round like we did Braxton. You picked him fairly high. And so yes, he's a guy who should be a rotational piece, let alone a guy who has some traits that you can continue to develop that he can be a starter. So that's what we expected, and that's what we want to get. You already started off bad by drafting a guy who's hurt half the time, which is what Ryan Post seems to always do, is get guys that are hurt. They're talented, but they're hurt. It's like what's going on with that. But we'll see. Yeah. We'll see.
No, 100%, and I think that's the part that's tough, and why I think T-Miles said, "I don't know another guy built like a wisdom tooth."
Oh boy, we got a bunch of wisdom teeth.
That's the part that's tough for me, right? Because it's not to say that I think Karan is gonna be the worst left tackle there's ever been, but you do hope that he's going to be a little bit above Braxton Jones, and that wasn't the showing that I was expecting on Sunday. I mean, first off, that's not the game that I was expecting him to get in, and we didn't feel capable enough to put him in any other game. We didn't feel capable enough to put him out there versus the Panthers, or feel capable enough to put him out there versus the Jaguars when we were playing them and we were dealing with some injury. That for me is a concern, especially now because this young man is the go. I don't know if you saw this, but the belief is that Braxton Jones is week to week and that he's going to be dealing with some things for the foreseeable future. That's tough. Karan Amagaji, you're going to get your shot, but do you have enough out there to continue to protect this young quarterback? And that's the biggest problem that the Bears have right now. You don't have players in place that can do that. Your middle of the line is in shambles right now. Coleman Shelton is still getting thrown around like a rag doll. I know we thought that he would be able to Dragon Ball Z power up, but he's getting thrown around like a rag doll. You look at left guard. I don't know what's going on with Tevin, but it don't look good.
Yeah, he got bent back the other day.
He got bent back. Like, I don't know what's going on with Tevin, but it does not look good. And then on the right side, listen, I like the Matt Pryor story. Matt Pryor is not that guy, though.
Yeah.
So you're telling me I don't have an entire middle of the line. Darnell Wright, I think, is struggling because of the fact that everybody else on the offensive line is struggling. Like, I think you have to go all in and try to make an addition at the trade deadline this year. I don't think you have a choice. I think if you're going to have any success with Caleb Williams, keeping him alive, you are going to have to go out and add to this offensive line this season. And I think you're going to have to add in a serious way. Going to have to add with Wyatt Teller. You're going to have to add with one of those guys out there who actually makes a real veteran presence impact. And I thought, here's the one thing that is probably the worst part of this offensive line right now. I remember this, and it's when I knew things were going to get rough. When Tevin Jenkins was asked who's the leader of this line, the immediate answer, and I mean without hesitation, the immediate answer he said was Ryan Bates.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know if Ryan Bates was going to be able to start. I kept coming back going, guys, he looks like a backup right guard. We didn't know if Ryan Bates was going to be a starter for this team. And you're telling me he's the vocal leader of this offensive line. That's a problem. That's concerning. And you were going to try him out in a brand new position. So it's no wonder this offensive line is like a rudderless ship. Your vocal leader's dead.
Yeah.
And has been for 8 weeks. And now he's getting healthy. You feel like he's going to start. His window to return is open. We haven't heard him yet be one of those players that has returned to practice. But you've got an offensive line with no vocal leader. That's a problem. I've got an issue with that, especially with as long as Tevin Jenkins has been on this offensive line, especially with Darnell Wright going into his second year here. Heck, Coleman Shelton, at least you've been a starting center in the NFL before. If you're going to get thrown around, at least call out commands on the way down.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I think that we need to pick up a veteran, on top of that is they need to be out there. They also need to hold this line a little bit more accountable. When you pick up a Wyatt Teller, a Pro Bowler, guy who's been there and done that and is still playing at a high level, again, I talk about that going back to the culture of this team. The standard needs to be raised everywhere. And it starts with bringing guys in that will hold each other accountable. The standard needs to be raised. The culture needs to change. And it's shifting, it's changing. But right now, we need to see it improve, whether it be from the top down, the leadership, the offensive line. If these guys are going to continue to be vocal, talking, whatever to the coaches, I need to see those veterans, come in and take the lead more.
Yeah, no, 100%. Need to see more out of this team. Need to see this team. Need to see him just fighting more on up front, and I don't know if you got the guys that can fight. That's really what it comes down to. And I've had that question coming into the season. I'm not surprised by this question. I said early in the season, I put this all at the feet of Ryan Poles. This is on you for not having a team that can go out there and compete in this manner, that can't go out there and win these fights. This is on you.
Yeah.
But because we're here, now you have to fix it. And that's what happens. Because you've gotten to this point, now you have to go out and you have to address this in trade, in my mind. You have no choice. And we'll see what ends up happening, man. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We're going to get up out of here. I think that's a solid place to pin the show. Of course, we'll be back later today at 5 p.m. to break down more Chicago Bears talk. Maybe even talk a little Chicago Bulls. Oh, before we get out of here, I do want to say this about the, I don't know about the Bulls. We'll see. Before we get out of here, I do want to say this about the Chicago Bulls. Just because can't nobody see it. If everybody could see it, I'd be fine with talking about the Bulls. But I do want to talk about this. Lawrence Holmes tweeted this out, talking about pricing that may be coming for the new Chicago Sports Network app.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what he is hearing on the CHSN app. Said it should be available before Thanksgiving, hopefully sooner. It will be $19.99 per month per team, $29.99 per month for all 3 teams, or $300 a year, and you're all in. The network is still negotiating with Comcast, and there is some movement there. He says the situation is unique because no other market will have 3 teams bundled like this. Still waiting on NBA approval. People who have seen the beta testing tell me it's going to look and feel different in a good way. That's the T. I'm still working sources. Are you in on that? Because I will say this, most people don't realize this, but that's usually about what you pay on your cable bill. Now, most people probably also don't pay their cable bills out here. Yeah,
I was about to say,
there's a lot
yeah,
of password sharing, all that stuff going on. But that usually goes into pricing if you still have cable for what you would get on your cable bill. It's actually not terrible pricing. The fact that you can split it up, right? Like maybe I go $29.99 a month for all 3. Maybe I just pay for the Bulls until it's time to switch over to the Blackhawks.
You could do that.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm just saying, if you're a casual fan, like it, right? I don't need the White Sox at all. Till I need them. Like what? I'll listen to them on the radio. I'll stream East the White Sox. I have no problem. You want to know what streams you can always get flawlessly and they're never taken down? White Sox games.
Yikes! Yikes! Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's still a lot of money for me. Like, you better be utilizing that app a lot if you're going to be paying that much. But I mean, I got
300 for the year is not bad.
Oh, 300 for the year. Okay,
It's not 300 a month there, JC.
I was like, wait a minute now.
Calm down now. Now here's a guy.
The 300 for the year is not bad at all, actually. No, I wouldn't mind paying. I mean, I got Fubo, so I mean, hey, Fubo is awesome.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about this. This is more for the people that have to deal with that on a consistent basis, where you're probably not getting it. Like YouTube TV, I think YouTube TV probably just told them, "Hey, how about you F off? How about you foul?"
They probably didn't accept that.
Now, what's going to be interesting is because I'm fine with doing the whole app thing. I'm sure it'll be on Roku and stuff like that. What's going to be interesting with it is, are you going to like limit how many TVs I can stream this on? Is this going to be you get it on this TV, but not this? Like, don't do that, dog. Like it, because I just see Jerry just like, oh, I don't know. You got these at the end of the day. What if they password sharing? I get Netflix from my nephew. You know what I mean? I have a nice bowl of soup. I watch a little Hulu,
a little minestrone while you watch.
I signed in on my Netflix on my nephew's account. Yeah,
hey, what are we gonna do?
what did Eric say? Pirated from Canada. Real talk. Every channel, pay-per-view, $20.
We got a TV cloud, $20 a month. 4,000 channels is insane.
Well, hey, look, I'm not speaking on the illegals or the legal the legalities of certain things. I'm not gonna speak on it. To each their own. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave that 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. For Jordan JC, Mr. Medium Self, it's your boy Pat the Designer, back at it again. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. We'll be back later today. Brad Don, one love.
Yeah.
The best show for Chicago sports.